Dive Podcast, straight talk on politics, national security, and America's future. With Robert Johnson and Linda Miller, we cut through the spin, tackle the tough issues, and give you the real story behind today's headlines. Subscribe now and hit the notification bell to stay informed.
Okay, let's dive in. We're looking today at, the swirling currents of international diplomacy, really zeroing in on this big meeting everyone's talking about.
The one between U.S. President Trump and Russian President Putin.
Exactly. We want to unpack the objectives, the stated goals, and maybe some of the maneuvering around this summit.
Which is set for August 15th, right?
That's the date, August 15th. Our aim here is just to lay out the different angles, the different stated goals for this pretty high-stakes discussion.
Got it. Making sense of the different moving parts.
So yeah, the core event, U.S. President Trump, Russian President Putin, August 15th, Alaska. That's locked in. And U.S. President Trump, he's been very upfront about his, let's say, number one goal. He literally said, I will tell him, you must stop this war.
Pretty direct. No ambiguity there.
None at all. Just a very clear message.
And it's interesting how U.S. President Trump has actually described the meeting itself. He's calling it probing.
Probing. What exactly does that signal, do you think?
Well, probing suggests, it's more exploratory, kind of lowers expectations for some huge, immediate breakthrough.
Right, like testing the waters rather than diving straight into final negotiations.
Exactly. It gives both sides a bit of room, maybe, to re-engage without the pressure of needing a signed deal right then and there. It feels strategic.
Okay, that makes sense. And besides just stopping the war, he also mentioned discussing parameters for a peace agreement.
Yes, parameters. And when we talk about parameters in this context, we're probably looking at the basic building blocks.
Like what specifically? Ceasefire lines, maybe?
Could be ceasefire lines, yeah, or the status of certain territories, maybe security guarantees. It's about setting the framework, defining the core issues on the table.
Before getting into the really fine details.
Precisely. What needs to be solved, not necessarily how it gets solved at this stage.
And then there's this broader vision U.S. President Trump mentioned, looking further down the road.
Yes, the part about leading them into the room.
Right. He said, in the end, I will lead them both into the room for negotiations. Maybe I will be there, maybe not. And I think the conflict will be resolved.
That paints a picture of him as a facilitator almost.
Yeah, like orchestrating it, whether he's physically present for the final talks or not. What's your take? Is that a realistic path or more aspirational?
Well, it's certainly aspirational.
Yeah.
But, in diplomacy, setting aspirational goals can sometimes create momentum.
True.
The idea of leading them into the room definitely points to a mediator role. And the maybe I will be there, maybe not part is interesting.
How so?
It suggests he sees his role as maybe catalytic, getting the ball rolling and then perhaps letting others carry it forward, creating the conditions for resolution.
Okay, so that's the U.S. President Trump perspective. But of course, the U.S. isn't the only one deeply invested here.
No, absolutely not. Europe is watching very closely.
And European leaders, they seem to have a very specific critical objective for this summit, which they want to, and this is the phrase being used, secure a seat at the table for Ukrainian President Zelensky during these talks in Alaska.
Okay, so direct Ukrainian participation, that's a significant push.
A very significant push. It shows they want Ukraine directly involved when its future is discussed between the U.S. and Russia.
And we know the EU Foreign Affairs Council is actually working on this, right? Developing a strategy.
Yeah, a strategy on how to influence the outcome of the Alaska summit from afar. That's quite telling.
It implies they're looking at ways to shape the agenda, maybe apply pressure, even without being in the room themselves. It's not just hoping, it's active planning.
And part of that involved Kaja Kallas, the head of European diplomacy, calling a meeting of EU foreign ministers just recently on August 11th.
Presumably to coordinate this strategy.
Exactly. But interestingly,
what's that?
We're told not to expect any loud news statements from that particular meeting.
So quiet diplomacy or internal alignment first. It could suggest they're focusing on getting their own house in order, creating a unified approach behind the scenes rather than making big public declarations that might, complicate things before the summit even happens.
Strategic silence, maybe?
Could be. Focus on the internal coordination before making external moves.
So this European push for Zelensky's involvement is strong. We've seen figures like German Chancellor Friedrich Merz basically saying he assumes Zelensky will be there.
That is quite a statement, operating on the assumption he'll be involved.
It seems bold, doesn't it, given how these summits often work?
It is bold, and it really speaks to a core principle for many in Europe. Chancellor Merz specifically said Europe can't allow decisions on Ukraine's territory to be made between Russia and America behind the backs of Europeans and Ukrainians.
Right. That phrase, behind the backs, really captures the anxiety, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's about sovereignty, about avoiding a situation where major powers decide the fate of Ukraine without Ukraine or its closest European partners having a direct say. That's the fundamental concern.
The nothing about us without us principle, essentially.
Precisely. And Merz also mentioned he believes the U.S. government feels the same way, which suggests he's hoping for alignment with Washington on this.
But yeah, interesting about it. U.S. President Trump has offered a different view on Zelensky potentially being there.
Okay, what has he said?
He's indicated that Ukrainian President Zelensky could attend, but, and this is the key part, his participation is not planned.
Not planned. So possible, but not on the agenda right now. That's a clear divergence from the European stance.
It creates immediate tension, doesn't it? And U.S. President Trump gave his reasoning too.
Which was?
He said, quote, Ukrainian President Zelensky has had many meetings. He has been doing this for 3.5 years, but it led to nothing.
Oof. That implies a certain skepticism about the effectiveness of past diplomatic formats involving Zelensky, perhaps.
That seems to be the implication. Maybe suggesting a need for a different approach, perhaps a more direct bilateral one initially.
It raises that whole debate, doesn't it? The efficiency of a smaller bilateral meeting versus the inclusivity, the legitimacy of having all key parties present.
Exactly. And just to add another layer, despite saying it's not planned,
yes,
we also heard the White House was apparently considering inviting Ukrainian President Zelensky to Alaska at some point.
So the idea wasn't completely off the table internally, even if the current public stance is different. Interesting.
It adds a bit of ambiguity, yeah. Now, looking at the immediate run-up to the summit.
The diplomatic schedule.
Right. Before the August 15th meeting, U.S. President Trump has calls scheduled, important calls.
We do.
He's set to speak with Ukrainian President Zelensky and also other European leaders 2 days before he meets Russian President Putin.
Okay, so pre-summit consultations, that seems standard but crucial.
Definitely. A chance to align messages or at least brief allies on the U.S. position going in.
And manage expectations, perhaps.
Could be. And significantly, the communication doesn't stop there.
He's calling them afterwards, too.
Yes. He intends to call them again after the talks with Russian President Putin conclude.
Right, that makes sense. The debrief, those calls are strategically vital, aren't they?
How so?
Well, the pre-calls set the stage, ensure allies aren't blindsided. They might even use it to pass subtle messages. The post-summit calls are just as key allies get a direct readout. It helps manage any potential fallout and allows for immediate coordination on next steps.
So it's a way of keeping them looped in, even if they weren't physically in the Alaska meeting room?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It acknowledges the necessity of allied consultation, even when the core negotiation is bilateral. Keeps the lines open.
So as we wrap this up, thinking about all these moving parts, the different objectives, the different formats being discussed, it really brings a key question to mind.
Which is?
How is this tension, this push and pull between the planned bilateral summit and the strong European desire for broader inclusion, specifically with Ukraine at the table, how is that likely to shape whatever comes next, for any potential peace process?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Does the format itself influence the potential substance? And what does this whole diplomatic dance tell us about how these major conflicts might be approached going forward?
Exactly. Lots to watch. Subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. We are here to make things clear. New episodes every day.